Was? Sind noch im Hotel? Sind noch im Hotel? Tschüss, wenn die kommen, ist vorbei. Besser, mit denen gar nichts planen. Ich schwör's dir.
Mudou, irmão?
Não porque na seleção, na
Good afternoon and welcome to Munich's Säbener Street. Welcome to a live training session here from the south of Munich. Welcome to Munich's Säbener Street. Welcome to a live training session here from the south of Munich. Carlo Ancelotti at the center of your screen should be able to welcome most players on the pitch here today. I'll go into a little more detail as we continue. A little bit of a warm-up here before the actual session starts. Let's try to check out and find out who is here and who isn't out onto the pitch before. I have a few news items to share with you, but I'd like to see who actually made it out onto the pitch before. Just to the right of Mats Hummels here right relay that to you. As you can see, Philipp Lahm's there, Tom Starke, also Marco Friedl, who's just to the right of Mats Hummels here right now, young Austrian left back who already trained in Qatar with the team and was in the squad for the first time now right here on the weekend. So Alaba in the Christmas hat is Thiago back on the pitch today. Ancelotti missing today. Exactly. Let's start with the long he'll stay out. Thiago's going to warm up with the team and keep going for as long as he can. That's the last thing I heard. I'm sure he's going to branch off to some individual training. We'll see exactly what the team, of course, or what Carlo Ancelotti has planned with the team today. And then we'll see if Thiago can join in. Arjen Robben and Xabi Alonso are indoors. They are training individually. No bad news there at all, though. Nothing to worry about. Both players it was decided by the medical staff would benefit more from an individual training session indoors. Kingsley Coman and Arturo Vidal, similar situation, unless Arturo Vidal has slipped through my sides here, but I don't think so. Both players with recent injuries, the medical staff has decided just to take a little easy on them and not train 5 days straight in the cold temperatures with those players, which is why they stayed indoors as well. But apart from that, I think, as far as I can tell, everyone outdoors, everyone on board. Good news, of course, for Carlo Ancelotti. And again, Xabi Alonso and Arjen Robben are training individually indoors, as are Kingsley Coman and Arturo Vidal. None of those players are seriously injured, though. Arturo Vidal has been battling with a rib injury recently. Everyone knows that's very painful, very debilitating, which is why he had to take it slow, and obviously is still taking it slow there. Kingsley Coman has just come back from a big injury from a long injury, which is why the medical staff again prefers to train with him individually so that they can control better exactly what he does. We just saw Thiago already. Oh, here is Arturo Vidal. Sorry, let me take that back. Vidal, hard to tell with all the clothes he's wearing, but no, that's very good news. Has been obviously green lighted to come out here and to train with the team, and is teaming up here immediately with Thiago. So these two players return to the squad on a Monday afternoon in the first training session in the build-up to a Bundesliga top match taking place on Saturday in Munich in the Allianz Arena against Schalke. Interesting game there. Bayern Munich with a perfect start in terms of points. 2 games in 2017, 2 Bundesliga games, that is 6 points. The performances leave room for improvement, but hey, as long as the results are perfect, there's not too much reason to complain. Completely different situation in Schalke. They've shown 2 really pretty bad performances. Were very lucky in the first game after the winter break to escape from the Ingolstadt game with a late winner, an injury time winner to make it 1-0. I suppose you could argue that it's a similar situation to what Bayern experienced in Freiburg last week, but the difference is that Bayern Munich added another win this weekend while Schalke lost. So they have quite a bit to make up for. The new strong men in Schalke, Markus Weinziel and Christian Heidel, maybe for the first time under real criticism after the Schalke fans that are traditionally very outspoken and very impatient have stayed calm, quiet and patient throughout this season. Now it seems that Schalke is at a bit of a, or at least on the verge of a bit of a tipping point there, so we'll see if Bayern Munich can push them over the edge or if Schalke can bounce back. One thing is for sure, they will try desperately and everything to do so in the Allianz Arena. Like every other opponent, it's pretty much the game of the year. Schalke obviously has the derby against Dortmund as well, but a good performance even can be a turning point really for every other Bundesliga team's season. We'll see what Saturday's game in Bremen has, what effect it has on Bremen's immediate future. The relegation threatened northern team took a lot of confidence from that game against Bayern Munich, but again, the only team that took points away was Bayern Munich. And as you see all the coaching staff here, again, let me remind you, Xabi Alonso, Arjen Robben and Kingsley Coman, the only 3 players not out on the pitch here today, but none of those players are injured. All of those are training individually. Here is Marco Friedl, the young Austrian. He's been nicknamed David Alaba's little brother because they get along very well, because they play the same position, because they're both Austrian. And well, Friedl, as I said, on the team sheet, in the squad on the bench this weekend against Bremen. That can only mean that Ancelotti has been very happy with this young man's training performances recently. With Vidal and Thiago returning to the team today, there's really only one man missing, and that's Jerome Boateng. He has returned to Munich as far as I know, and has trained very well recently. It's still going to be a while before he can return, but the squad should be able to compensate. Let's have a look in the next couple of minutes of this warm-up program, and then we'll see exactly what Carlo Ancelotti has lined up for his team on this Monday afternoon public training session in the build-up to the Schalke game.
Thiago, ven. Zwei am Ball, zwei am Ball. Zwei aquí.
Hey, Javi, what have you been on Saturday?
So here is Arturo Vidao. As I said, a rib injury has kept him out of the games and out of training recently. Once the pain subsides, though, and once he can regain his mobility, and it seems as if he's on a good track there, shouldn't be too much keeping him from returning to the pitch. And the same goes for this man, recently described by Carlo Ancelotti as one of the best midfielders in the world. He was asked in an interview, Carlo Ancelotti, if he's done anything special with Thiago to improve his skills or integrate him better or whatever in recent weeks since he's been there, and he said, no, I just let Thiago play. He's one of the best midfielders in the world, and when he plays, he just comes up with his own solutions. So good news for Bayern Munich that he's here on the pitch today. We will, of course, keep you informed throughout the week in the FC Bayern TV news what the status is. If Thiago can continue to train all week long, we shall see today what happens. Thiago warming up with the team, still part of these passing exercises. Usually in a public training session, we've always seen quite competitive exercises where the team practices pressuring the opponent, counter-pressuring, usually some fast games, quite physical games on little space. I could imagine if that happens that Thiago might actually grab a physical coach and run a couple of laps or train individually. I don't think he's going to go into full contact training here today yet, but I might be wrong. We'll see. Same goes for Arturo Vidal. Again, you just want to make sure that he doesn't get hit in the rib cage in the next couple of days as well, and then he can heal up properly and possibly already start against Schalke. The Schalke game, of course, marks the start of the first couple of busy weeks in the new year. Bayern play Schalke on the weekend, then Wolfsburg Bundesliga game next weekend, then the first leg in the Champions League round of 16 against Arsenal. So the big games, the knockout games are starting, and if you remember last year, then you'll remember, or in fact ever since Arturo Vidal, of course, joined Bayern Munich, the big games are when this young man, the so-called warrior, steps up and shows big performances, and that's exactly what Bayern Munich need. Having said that, big players stepping up, Arjen Robben and David Alaba showed their individual class on the weekend against Bremen to contribute two vital goals to that 2-1 victory. Everyone agreed, though, Bayern Munich still have room for improvement. The good news for the Bayern fans is that when Bayern Munich had to show strong performances this season, they usually did step up to the challenge and deliver, most notably, of course, in the last match before the winter break against Leipzig, where they arguably showed their best season performance and really steamed over Leipzig in superior fashion. But this best promoted team in Bundesliga history isn't budging. Leipzig, 2 games in 2017, 2 wins, 6 points. Tough game next week, though. Leipzig against Dortmund should be an interesting challenge, and possibly, if Bayern Munich can beat Schalke at the same time, maybe there's a big step possible for Bayern Munich towards the championship. If you look at the Bundesliga table, I'm sure all of you are aware of the Bundesliga table. Bayern Munich are 3 points ahead of Schalke. Oh, sorry, of Leipzig, of course. 10 points behind Leipzig already, then Frankfurt, and then Dortmund on 31 points. So the first natural competitor for the championship we would have expected this season is already 14 points behind Bayern Munich. Not talking about the other usual suspects, Schalke, Leverkusen, possibly even Borussia Mönchengladbach, Wolfsburg. All of those teams we expected to give Bayern Munich a run for their money this season are nowhere near Carlo Ancelotti's team. If it wasn't for this astonishing season that the promoted team from Leipzig is playing, you could argue that the championship is all but decided already. As it is, it's an exciting, possibly the most exciting season we're experiencing in a while in the Bundesliga, at least in terms of the championship decision. We're watching a passing exercise here, typical for Carlo Ancelotti. A little bit of a warm-up together, then a passing exercise, and then we'll go into something a little more strenuous for the players in a minute. Franck Ribéry, here he is with the vital assist. It's Ribéry and Robben that stood out again really on the weekend. Ribéry with the assist for Robben's 1-0. Robben, who was fouled for David Alaba's free kick, which led to the 2-0. So the two crucial scenes have the over 30-year-old crowd darlings and superstars involved, proving yet again, as they have, fortunately for Bayern Munich many times this season, how valuable they still are, which of course also explains why they recently extended their contracts.
Balón, Lester va. Vamos. Buenísima, papi. 3 y Douglas termina. Grande. Ahí está, Yui. Aquí entrada.
Cameras return to Arturo Vidao regularly here, and of course with good reason. Interesting to see just how well he'll do today, how long he'll be able to stay out on the pitch. Uno. I assume that means one-touch football here, one-touch passing exercise.
Bien. Vamos, Frank, dale ritmo. Buena, patrón. Dale. Sí. Eso. Suerte el pase.
Here's Renato Sanchez. Carlo Ancelotti described him recently and said, I've rarely seen a midfielder as powerful and as dynamic as him. It's our job now to channel that the right way, to shape and form him properly, and to make him use his natural talent and skill in the right way. He also said that the club bosses are very well aware of the situation and of the fact that they need to show a little more patience with Renato Sanchez. No one needs patience with Lewandowski. Bayern Munich's scoring machine didn't score on the weekend, but it was a game of few Bayern chances against a very disciplined, defensively strong Bremen team. Renato Sanchez came on. I'm sure most of you will have seen the game, and he came on for Thomas Müller, a bit of an unusual substitution on first glance, but that substitution really helped Bayern Munich add in defensive stability. He really helped Bayern Munich shut down Bremen's attacking moves for the most part. After Max Kruse scored the 2-1, he had one more very dangerous shot on goal, albeit from a very difficult angle indeed. So by far and large, Bayern Munich were able to control Bremen. Mats Hummels pointed it out quite well. He said, we did prevent many Bremen chances, or really any very good Bremen chances, but you still always had the feeling that Bremen were closer to scoring the equalizer than we were to scoring the decisive goal. And he's right about that. But again, bottom line, Bayern Munich did prevent Bremen from creating chances, and what's more important, they prevented Bremen from scoring a goal to equalize. And the end of the story is 6 points, 2 games, perfect start. If Bayern Munich need bigger challenges possibly to step up to the plate, well, they've got one coming. Schalke, despite the difficult, if not critical situation they're in right now, are a team which boasts great individual class. I'm sure they'll also show a much better team performance against Bayern Munich than they did in the past couple of games, just like any other team does that. Maybe Manuel Neuer have a little more work come his way. For those of you who aren't familiar with these Bayern training sessions, and I know we always have a couple of new users, although we of course have some loyal viewers as well, but a lot of fans when they watch these training sessions for the first time do wonder why Manuel Neuer, Tom Starke, and I assume Sven Ulreich are out on the pitch. Here is Sven Ulreich. There we have all 3 of them in one shot. Why all 3 of them conduct these passing exercises, and if that's standard and usual at Bayern Munich, the answer is yes, it is. The goalkeepers, of course, conduct predominantly goalkeeping exercises and branch off with goalkeeping coach Toni Topalovic, who is in the background, by the way, training with 16-year-old young Christian Früchtl. Particularly at the beginning in these passing exercises, the goalkeepers tend to join in. Passing, as we all know, is a very important part of Bayern Munich's goalkeeping game. Joshua Kimmich starting formation on the weekend. A real bright prospect for the future at Bayern Munich's midfield, or possibly even a successor at some point in the future to the fullbacks on the right, Philipp Lahm and Rafinha. Those are the positions that he can play, or that at least Carlo Ancelotti favors him in. He says he can play holding midfield. In Bayern Munich's current 4-2-3-1 system, Kimmich can play either the left or right holding midfielder, but also he can play right back. He did that as a youth player already. He's done that in the past a lot. Of course, he did it for Germany as well at the European Championships and did so very well. Right now, Bayern Munich still have Philipp Lahm there. It's an ongoing discussion for how long, and unfortunately, I can't end that discussion now and give you any breaking news about Philipp Lahm's future, but it's good to know that Bayern Munich have a couple players in the background for the future. Who knows, maybe Marco Friedl, who just went through our screen, could be an option there as well, at least as a left back in future. And then on the wings, of course, is a similar situation with Douglas Costa and Kingsley Coman. Again, for those of you joining in, let me quickly explain the absent players today. Xabi Alonso, Arjen Robben and Kingsley Coman are training individually. None of those players are injured. It's a precautionary measure. In the case of Xabi Alonso, in the case of all 3 players, really the physical staff decided it would be a better idea to train individually today, to start the training week with individual training rather than have them conduct 5 90-minute sessions outdoors this week in the build-up to the Schalke game. But again, none of those players injured, so really only missing from training today is Jerome Boateng. Thiago and Vidal out for the first time after their injuries today, and we'll see for how long they can train today, what the week looks like. We'll have news updates for you throughout the week, in which of course we'll also talk about who's in training, who isn't in training, who Carlo Ancelotti and his coaching staff can fall back on and who not. Certainly seems as if Carlo Ancelotti is quite happy with what he's seeing here today. Again, in terms of points and successes so far this season, Bayern Munich completely on track. And for those worried maybe about the certainly not perfect performances in the first 2 games of 2017, I'll remind you, so far under Carlo Ancelotti, Bayern Munich have stepped up to every challenge in their way and have overcome every obstacle. They've got 2, 3 arguably coming up in the next 2 weeks. Wolfsburg in the DFB Cup round of 16 on February 7th, Tuesday evening kick-off. A week later, Bayern play the first leg of the Champions League round of 16 against Arsenal. Schalke, top league game in between. I mentioned this recent interview published in one of Germany's football magazines with Carlo Ancelotti. He talked about Mats Hummels and said outstanding defender, and I think we can all agree it seems as if Hummels has played at Bayern for years. Some fans are unaware of the fact that Hummels is actually from Munich and used to play in Bayern's youth before he went to Dortmund, where he spent 9 years. Good news that Hummels and Martinez are fit and can play in these centre-back positions, but as usual, Kimmich runs through our screen here. Kimmich and Alaba are also capable of playing these positions despite their lack in height. Alaba and Kimmich did a pretty outstanding job last season under Pep Guardiola in central defense. Certainly not an ideal situation to field these two. And here's Marco Friedl, the front of your screen here with David Alaba. You can see it is pretty terrible weather in Munich. Not a lot of fans here today in this public training session. In the background, I suppose, a few fans along the training pitch. Philipp Lahm, the Bayern captain, has decided to retire after the next season. There are, let's say, speculations that he might actually already retire after this season. Carlo Ancelotti said that Lahm could easily play until he's 40 years old and become a German Paolo Maldini. Seems, however, as if that's not going to happen. So, warm-up and passing exercises are over. Let's see what the next exercises bring, and let's see if Arturo Vidal and Thiago stay on the pitch and remain a part of the training squad here, or if they decide together with the physical staff to rather run a couple laps or train individually, maybe go back indoors, even go to the gym. We shall see. David Alaba, what a free kick, and what an important free kick on the weekend against Bremen. He actually practiced free kicks quite extensively the day before the Bremen game, and they didn't look good at all. He admitted himself, it was pretty terrible. None of them went in, and then he just pulls one off in a competitive game. I suppose that's a real sign of class as well. Now, as far as I can tell, Arturo Vidal is going to stay a part of this training group now, and so is Thiago. That is excellent news for Bayern. Before this starts, I'll give you a bit of a hint of what's going to happen. Here we've got some players in green, Thiago's in blue. That usually indicates that he's a free agent, that he'll join in whichever team has possession. It's quite a simple idea behind that. When opposition teams attack, or what happens is that if you have possessional play with superior numbers, it makes it difficult, of course, or more difficult even for the team hunting the ball to actually retrieve it. But that's part of this game. Juan Bernat, let's see when we'll see him back on the pitch. He's been free of injury and showed a good first half of the season. Of course, difficult for him to get past Lahm and Alaba on the wings. Same goes for Douglas Costa here. Both, however, have shown very good performances this season so far. So you'll see this here. The Team Green is basically playing against Team Red. They're going to try to score goals against these two small goals here. I'm not quite sure what the if there's an extra challenge here. Sometimes you're only allowed to score from a direct pass, a one-touch goal basically. But you can see here that, as I mentioned, that Thiago joins in whichever team is in possession. Here's a pass from Team Green to Thiago, and you'll see that Team Grey will use him too. So let's enjoy this, see who wins, and enjoy the competitive nature of the Bayern players. Team Green takes the lead with Thomas Müller's goal. A little unlucky there by David Alaba. As I said, he practiced free kicks recently in training. They didn't work, and he scored a goal in the game. Maybe it's a good omen here that he hits the post. Bayern, by the way, before and after the winter break now, 7 wins in succession. First time since the 2015-2016 season that they were able to do that. Here is Arturo Vidao. No surprises there. This is not bad news in any way. This is, on the contrary, this is good news. As I said, painful rib injury. If anyone's ever had a broken or a bruised rib, you know how painful that can be. You just want to avoid any contact there, any hard smashes into the rib cage of Arturo Vidao, which is why these full contact exercises are probably a little too soon for Vidal. I don't think he has any problems in terms of fitness, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw him in full team training by the end of the week, and then subsequently possibly even in the Schalke squad. Don't quote me on that, of course. I'm not that involved in the medical history or in the process of bringing Vidal back into the team. But again, a rib injury kept him out of training really only for a couple of days, if that. Since then he's been training individually a lot. He shouldn't have lost much fitness, if any, in the last couple of days and weeks. And again, with this rib injury, it's just debilitating. It just keeps you off the pitch, and it just is very painful, which is why I would assume that he, again, might be able to join in on Schalke. Thiago is back in full team training, it seems. Certainly no coincidence that he's the player in blue here, free agent, who's possibly less prone to the others to actually going into tough physical duels one with the other. If he was still injured, if he still had real problems, then I'm sure the medical staff would not have him join in full team training. So this is really good news. There he is. Nice little pass again. Thiago Ribery Müller can't get that ball across the line. That's one of the many downsides of being injured. I think he's already pointing at his rib cage again. Let's see how long he can keep going. But one of the many drawbacks of being injured is you have to train harder than the others, and you have to train alone, and you don't get to train with the ball either, or with your teammates. You get to sprint up and down the pitch and work on fitness and endurance. There's a lot of reasons why being injured isn't fun for a football player. Certainly one of them. Franck Ribéry has been fit for a long time now, and it shows. Still one of the key players in the Bayern team. It's a good pass there by Renato Sanchez. Lewandowski blocked by Juan Bernat. Speaking of Lewandowski, he was the only outfield player who played all 17 Bundesliga games in the first half of the season. Again, when we say first half of the season, don't forget that the Freiburg game last weekend was still part of the first half of the season. Bayern Munich only played 16 of 34 Bundesliga games before the winter break, so the winter break actually ended, but the second half of the season actually only ended last weekend with that Freiburg win. And even though Lewandowski didn't score now on the weekend, he is now on 61 goals for Bayern Munich in 81 Bundesliga games. Of course, since he didn't score on the weekend, it was already 61 goals after 80 games, and that was a new Bundesliga record. Here he comes very close to scoring a goal in training. The man he beat was Uwe Seeler, who only required 86 games for 61 goals, but it is quite astonishing how good of a goal scorer Lewandowski is. He's already now the second best foreign goal scorer in the history, and I should say the long and proud history of the Bundesliga. 135 goals at Lewandowski. He's still got a while to go, though, before he can catch up with another former Bayern player, I should say, who we saw on the weekend, Claudio Pizarro, who unfortunately had to leave the pitch with injury. Unfortunately for him, possibly fortunately for Bayern Munich, he might have actually helped Bremen be a little more threatening in front of goal of Manuel Neuer, but Pizarro is on 190 goals, so still 55 ahead of Robert Lewandowski, who last weekend with his 2 goals against Freiburg overtook another Bayern legend, Giovanni Elber. A little bit of trash talk there with Ribéry and Alaba, it seems. Not only trash talk. Top Starke, much to the amusement there of Robert Lewandowski, fails to score from a very promising position. It's a near miss there by Lewandowski. But as this game progresses, I'm sure you'll agree, you can see here just how involved the players are, how enthusiastic, and it's great to see Thiago there, back on the pitch, smiles on his face, thoroughly enjoying the time back with his teammates. On the right, Davide Ancelotti, Carlo Ancelotti's young son. Well, I say young son, Carlo Ancelotti's son, Bayern's assistant manager, who stepped up to a certain extent, as did, I suppose, Hermann Gerland after the absence or the departure of Paul Clement to Swansea. While the players are enjoying the break, I have a couple more season fun facts. After 17 games this season, so that's before the weekend game, Bayern Munich had 42 points that they amassed. That was the worst, the weakest statistic since 2012-2013. But no worries, weakest least points since the season in which Bayern Munich won the treble. So that's not the worst omen either. Bayern Munich had the chance, of course, of winning the 5th championship in succession. And as I mentioned, if it wasn't for Leipzig, we wouldn't really be talking about performances. And not all we'd be talking about is the fact that Bayern Munich are, again, ahead of all their competitors in double digits. A little bit of a blow there, apparently, against the foot of Philipp Lahm. But looking at his face here, doesn't seem to be anything too serious here. Maybe a little bit of a twist and a turn here. Again, it's early in the week. No one wants to take any risks. And Bayern have this full squad to choose from, to tap into. In possession, Juan Bernat. Not really an alternative, of course, for Philipp Lahm's right-back position. But like Rafinha, always an option for the starting formation, pretty much regardless of any opponent. And look at this, Thiago's switch now. Of course, I assume this is because of the fact that Lahm discontinued the training. Now there are even numbers in this training group, which is why there is no place for a free agent anymore. But if the choice was to give Thiago that blue jersey to avoid contact, maybe take him out of the immediate risk and danger of being too involved physically in this training, then there's even better news coming now. No need for that. Thiago is fully involved here. He's enthusiastic, quick on his feet. Here we go. You might have wondered here, this is another part of this exercise, which I think that the coach has actually just now changed. Usually when Bayern Munich play this exercise, you're not allowed to score with anything but the first touch. So you just now saw Lewandowski was running towards the goal. It was empty, but he didn't take the shot, but instead waited for Rafinha to join him. Here's Mino Fulco, Bayern Munich's nutritional expert. Franck Ribéry, unhappy with this pass, which didn't have the necessary precision. Now in the background, by the way, Manuel Neuer training with Toni Tapalovic, so it's typical that the goalkeepers do both. Starke on the far right here, still part of full team training, or outfield team training, I should say, but Sven Ulreich and Tom Starke back between the posts with Toni Tapalovic. Another typical scene there. And again here, look at this, the involvement, the joy. Last week Thiago returned to the pitch, returned to outdoor training, but it's not the same when you train individually and when you run laps. It's the first step, but nothing more. Ribéry and Müller. Thiago, Sanchez not giving up here. Well done there by Kimmich and Martinez to get Ribéry into position. Good job there by Thomas Müller as well. Avoids Rafinha's sliding challenge. See again. No one there to take the shot. Ribéry's in front of an empty goal. Can't take it. Has to wait for a teammate to prepare a direct shot on goal. That's one of these little obstacles in this game, one of these little challenges. Ooh. Carlo Ancelotti says diver. I think he's right. Tom Starke doesn't seem to be too injured here. Well, it's a bit of a limp, but Marco Friedl isn't saying sorry. Well, if you're a young player and you want to make it in this team, you can't just sit back and relax. You've got to show yourself. You've got to play, showing a little bit of physicality. And Marco Friedl's learned that lesson. You can't overdo it either. Obviously, as a young player, you've got to be a little bit careful. Right back in the center of things, Thiago. Not only on the training pitch, obviously, but pretty much the entire season already. Most Bayern fans, if not every Bayern fan, really agrees. He's really stepped up his game. He's become the dominant figure in midfield, really no matter where he plays. I think we all agree Thiago is technically certainly one of the most talented players in this Bayern team, and if he is in this Bayern team, he's certainly one of the most gifted, just in terms of his talent, football players, maybe in the history of Bayern Munich's midfield. but he's now consistently showing great efficiency, great knowledge, very sensible football. And here is another very interesting scene, really, if you think about it. The media kept asking Thomas Müller in Qatar and asked Thiago before his injury, what about this duel between the two of you? When Carlo Ancelotti switched from a 4-3-3 for a 4-2-3-1 system, it seemed Müller would be the natural choice behind Robert Lewandowski. But in the top match against Leipzig, Carlo Ancelotti decided to field Thiago there, who played very well indeed. And so there is a bit of a duel, I suppose, for positional play in these between these two players, although they're all versatile enough to play on different positions. And yet Thiago and Müller are conferring here, are talking, are helping each other. I think, by the way, that we have quite a few players training individually today. It seems as if Lewandowski is leaving the pitch. Hummels already left the pitch. Vidal is training individually. As I said, Coman, Robben and Xabi Alonso stayed indoors. So I'm not aware exactly of what the plan was, which is usually something that the coaching and medical staff come up with together, the physical therapists and so on. But it does seem as if quite a few players are going to train indoors and outdoors today. That's another thing that fans ask sometimes. Sometimes we watch these live training sessions and they're only about an hour long, and then fans ask, is that really it? Do the players come out only for an hour during the day? And the answer is no, they don't. The answer is they have to be here at least an hour before training begins. A lot of players actually come quite a bit earlier and then go to the gym before, go to the gym after, conduct some individual exercises or train with the physical staff. And so again, this seems to be one of these days. It's actually a lot warmer this week than it was last week in Munich, but still, as you can see, it's cold, it's raining, and some players have had a cold recently as well. It's possible that there are, well, the decision was obviously made to split up the training groups, and you can see this is what's happening here as well. But a physical training here for, let's see who it is. It's Costa, Bernat and Rafinha I saw. Well, physical training. Okay, it's half passing, half shooting exercise here. And then there's a couple players at the back surrounding Manuel Neuer. A couple players, as I said, have already gone back indoors. But again, let's remember one thing. There's only one injury in the Bayern squad right now, and that's Jerome Boateng. So let's have a look at this exercise here. Bernat. Tries his luck.
Listo.
As always, by the way, you're welcome to ask your questions, and I'm just reading through a couple of the questions. A couple of fans obviously joined us later and are asking where some players are, so let me maybe just repeat that for those fans who joined a little later. Xabi Alonso and Robben trained individually all day long. They didn't come out today, but they're not injured. It's just that the physical and medical staff obviously decided in a full week of training they didn't want to have these two players conduct 5 90-minute outdoor sessions, but rather have them train individually. That's nothing unusual, particularly for those two players who like to work individually, particularly after competitive games. The same basically goes for Kingsley Coman, who of course came back from an injury and was substituted for the first time this weekend. Again, the physical staff has obviously decided not to overdo it with Kingsley Coman. He's been training individually as well. Arturo Vidao came back and conducted the warm-up session with the players and a bit of a passing exercise before he trained individually outdoors. He's back indoors as well now. Really good news comes from Thiago, who's outside, who trained with the team and who still, I think, is outside in the group there on the far post on the far goal. So it's really only Jerome Boateng who's still missing, and unfortunately who will still be missing for a couple of weeks. As far as I know, Boateng has returned to Germany. He has been training very hard individually and is working on his comeback, and we hope to see him back in the squad, let's just say in February, or back on the pitch in February. I can't give you any exact confirmation there. Now, for those of you who are joining now, you might be wondering where all the Bayern players are. There's obviously, it's a short, full team training session, as you can see. A couple of players here with a little bit of a more physical exercise. Bernat, Costa and Rafinha, I believe, are doing or conducting this exercise with Tom Starke in goal. Then a bit of a crossing exercise in the background against the goal of Manuel Neuer, and several players, Mats Hummels, Philipp Lahm, also Robert Lewandowski, have already gone back inside to train individually there. And that leads me to the next question. Duck Dam, I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it. One of our users asks, how long do they usually train for a day? That's hard to answer. It really depends on the individual player. The sessions themselves are usually somewhere between 70 and 90 minutes outdoors. It's hard to tell for us sometimes if they've actually warmed up indoors as a team yet or not. When they come out and they conduct warm-up exercises, you can usually say, well, okay, they obviously haven't warmed up as a team indoors, but a lot of players come earlier than they have to. Every player has to be at the training facilities unless there's a change in plans or a specific announcement. They have to be at the training facilities at least 1 hour before training starts. A lot of players come quite a bit earlier and train individually, go into the gym, work with one of the many staff members, physical staff, physical therapists, medical staff, and so on and so forth. So most players, I would say, train 90 to 120 minutes a day. We don't get to see all of that all the time, and as I'm talking only about before the training sessions, there's a lot of players who actually stay in the gym for a while as well after training. Some players, for instance, like to do a little more upper body work. We talked to Joshua Kimmich about that recently, and he mentioned players like Tom Starke, also Jerome Boateng specifically, because he said as a centre back, of course, you need a bit of a different physical presence compared to a midfielder or a winger, which is why centre backs like to do some upper body training more than others, and they just do that after the training session's over. So it's possible that those players might be there for 2 to 3 hours on a training day. Today, again, bit of an individual or a separate group training session here today. I think Juan Bernat just walked out of our screen and probably went back indoors. A couple of players already did that, but again, they're not going home now. It's not as if they come out here and train for 20 minutes and then go back home again. That's not the case at all. On the contrary, usually they train for a lot longer. So right now we have an hour off the clock, but as I said, the players probably warmed up, if not as a team then individually before the game. The players who already left 10 minutes ago or so are definitely going to conduct some more work in the gym. And if you look at a player like Robert Lewandowski, I'd like to say he's in constant training 24/7. That's not the case, of course, but he is such a great athlete apart from just his football talent, that he likes to conduct sports in his spare time. He is, of course, a very athletic and successful sportswoman that helps him along in his life as well, and does a great job there, I'm sure. So Lewandowski keeps fit not only at Bayern Munich. I had the opportunity to conduct a Q&A with Mats Hummels in Qatar, which you might or might not have seen. If not, it's quite entertaining. You can check it out on our social media channels. And Mats Hummels says in his spare time he loves to conduct all kinds of different sports, because he believes that every sport, every different sport, can help you in terms of coordination, basically, and in terms of overall physical ability. He likes to play basketball in his spare time and conducts all other things. So even when these guys train every day for 90 minutes, they still conduct exercises outdoors. Müller, for instance, is a real passionate golf player. Now, golf, of course, isn't maybe the most strenuous of exercises, but you are up and about, and it does certainly help you work on your ability to concentrate. So those of you who think, okay, after 45 minutes of training, Lewandowski going indoors means that's the best job ever. It is the best job ever, I suppose, but it's not as if a couple minutes of training every day are enough for you to become a Bayern pro. As you can see, after now an hour off, there are a couple players still kicking the ball back and forth here, but the overall training session is over. I think we can see a couple players also beginning to leave the pitch now, although this is probably the crossing squad with Friedel, Sanchez and Kimmich. They're going to deliver some crosses into the center. We'll stay on here for a couple more minutes and hopefully see one or two more good goals by Müller and his teammates. But the bulk, I think the main part of this training session is over, so we're going to cut that short as well. Bayern Munich train every day for the rest of the week in the build-up to the Schalke match. Unfortunately, it's earlier during the day, and even worse, it's not public, which means we can't bring you these sessions. Well, this is, I suppose, a pretty fun exercise to watch, so let's stay on that for a couple more minutes. And I'm sure in the next, I can already tell you, in the next couple of training sessions this week, there'll be more exercises involving the whole team, more tactical exercises in which Carlo Ancelotti wants his players to practice the pressing, the counter-pressing, the transitional game. Today, I suppose, in a way, fairly slow start to the week of training, but again, hard for us to tell what actually happens in the gym behind closed doors. Let's enjoy a few more goals here, and then we'll call it a day. I'm already gonna thank you for joining in, for watching. Just on one note, for the fans of these live training sessions, I fear it's going to be a while before we can bring you the next one. Next week or next weekend, starting with the Schalke game. We've got some busy weeks coming up, and when there are midweek games, there's usually no time for public training sessions. In other words, no time for live training sessions. We have had users in the past argue with that and say that's not really true, is it? Because Bayern Munich always train publicly after the game or the day after the game. That is true, but most players who play on the weekend don't come out onto the pitch, but again, train individually, train in the gym, maybe come out for a lap or two just to run the sore muscles out of their legs. So these Sunday training sessions, or the training sessions right after a game, are usually, I have to say, not that entertaining for fans to watch, which is why we refrain from showing you those regularly. So again, it might be 3 weeks or so before we can bring you the next public training session, but rest assured, as soon as we have an opportunity, which makes sense, we'll get to the next live training session underway for you. Until then, thanks a lot for listening. Let's enjoy a few more goals by the Bayern players here. A few more good crosses, hopefully. Renato Sanchez is next up. Müller's waiting in the center. Manuel Neuer is the center passing machine here. So there's always something interesting to see here in these live training sessions. But that's all for me. Enjoy the rest of the week.
Oh man! Hey, go back! Get away from us! Get away from us! Get back! We cool. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Get out of our face. No, this ain't our field, man. This ain't field. Leave me alone. I'm sorry. Leave me alone. My security not nice. Hell no! You better get out my face.
Soccer out here real big, yeah. Hey, buddy, for this big. Nah, it's just low key. He just like, it's low key.
Hey, popping a rock on the out of the
Hey, bro, come on, Sway, come on. I got you. Nah, soccer is nigga, they got snipers over there right now ready, man. What do you mean? Nigga, this is like we got an NBA game right now. We had an NBA practice. It's the same shit. This is NBA.
I know.
Like the NFL. They just don't want to disrupt us.
Yeah.
You see everybody else quiet. They open, but they quiet. They ain't even screaming. They just low key over there. Soccer is different. Who there for that? Who them there?
He told me to stop hollering. We need to go over to the snow and go crazy. I don't care about that, bro. I'm not tripping. We need to go over to the snow and go crazy. Get on my face. I'll be out for the police car. You're not.
Hey, they gonna call the telephone. It's like some NFL, NBA niggas right here. That's the over here. Soccer shit. A team paid $32 million to trade for somebody. Everybody like this team, but they paid for winning. This shit is some money.
This is the biggest sport in the world. Soccer is.
And man, like how old head just wanted to be like an old dude like that coach. He just walk up and look, and they don't be saying shit, and they be subbing in and shit. Soccer is different.
Imagine like someone like Thiago. I know, like what we were doing. I tried to play this team hard. Man, keep quiet. Take your drinks seriously. Oh, yeah, I just get mad. Oh, shit. I was ready. I would love. I would. Man, what? Yeah. I play FIFA. Yeah. I like FIFA. Man, I don't think my knee messed up. I can't see it. My knee messed up. The guy, like, he's looking like the same Real Sanchez. Like, some big fella. Which one? The one with the like dreadlocks? It's you?
He's walking up now, all black.
Yeah, he's all black.
Black and gray.
What did they compare him? They compare that dude. I see him. Yeah. I see. Yeah. I know. Oh, yeah. Seems like me. Yeah. Yeah, he could come yesterday because it was London. He came back today. Nah, he just went to.
Dang. He hit that goal right there.
Yeah, no, he's
Kick it inside right there. Like, he hit the net and bounce off.
No,
He go hard, man. So he feel like Messi.
Rapaz, lá.
Messi.
Tirando do corner lá.
Badass.
Agora lá? É. Oi, 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 oi! The corner. Claro, Fábio.
Oh, they trying to hit that little. Oh,
Espera, espera.
Cos'è che devi fare?
Fermare là, la porta.
oh, he's working on.
Muita força. Muita força. Muita força. Ai! Muito fraco. Sem da força. Não, sem da força.
I don't know, I want to mess up his flow though. My nigga got that shit going. That shit tight.
Não!
I think he's trying to get over there, but he had just kicked the ball.
Puta, cara, que ela vai meter a curva. Porra, vê?
Sideways and went into that goal right there. I said, how do you do that? Right here. Brazilian. Yeah, he good. He like real good.
Ah, cagaram. Fica essa...
When they was kicking it across the field and playing the little chest ball thing, you know hacky sack? Man, they was playing hacky sack.
Não, não, não. Era bom, era bom, era bom.
They're just flying.
Get it in the corner, that little
Agora vai.
circle, the corner kick spot.
Vai, Sam. Que lunga. Não, 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 não. Muita força. Trocou forte. Trocou forte. Lenta. Rafa, não vai cagar. Aqui, ó, é que nem sinuca. Tem a descaída ali, ó. Olha lá. Na minha bola acertou. Deu na minha. Fala, missão. Não. Não. É lindo o quê? É linha. É linha. É linha.
La linea non va bene.
No, ma che va bene? No, la palla è dentro, Davide, la palla è dentro. Questi sono 50.000 in gioco. No, questo è 50.000, linea. Davide, se la palla è in linea non è gol. ¿Dónde es? ¿Aquí? ¿Dónde queda? ¿Dinero? ¿Dónde queda? Ese só negócio é jogar com dinheiro. Javi, esse é para quem já jogou gol.
Eso no fue gol, papi.
Não, para quem jogou gol.
Ah, a ver.
Para quem jogou gol. Olha aqui. Que é isso, papi? Falta descaída aqui. O campo é malo. É que o campo está assim. O campo tem que ser de lá.
Tiene que entrar en la esquina.
Sí, así, mira, así, mira. Assim é gol.
Ele descaída pra lá. O campo ele faz assim, ó.
Ele pegou o jeito aqui, ó. Ele pegou. Não.
Dentro, aspetta. Linea!
Tu vai meter ali? Hijo de puta. No chega. Javi. Javi, pasó. ¿Tiene hambre o qué? ¿Quiere comer un poquito más? ¿Un poquito?
I know I wouldn't
Vení.
No, está floja, hermano.
Que hagas tú también.
Tómala. Para.
Fora, mucha fuerza. O quê?
Mira, você é muito mal.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
Ah, merda. Essa é, Fabi.
Center back? You know all the positions are in football?
Not all of them.
He's like center back. Fans, yeah. He's defense, right? But he plays
Aqui, ó, Rafa. Aquela aqui, ó.
yeah, he's like he plays
Davi, vem.
offense.
Vai tirar.
Aê!
Toma seu cu,
aí?
essa merda. Manu.
Tall guy.
Funciona.
The one closest to
Mano,
The tall ones are really good.
mano.
Plays Spanish national team.
Diz tu,
He
funga?
wasn't a show yesterday as well.
Não.
Hey, yeah, not like football. Yeah, good teams. They play at the same.
interchangeable. Just hang back here and distract me.
Javi, anda, Javi. ¿Qué pasó, Javi, contigo? ¿Qué pasó contigo, Javi?
Javi, tá cego?
Para.
¡Estoy volviendo! ¡Dogra!
Sí, mano. Que é isso? É que o campo de golfe que eu jogava era diferente, velho.
Tá, vou fazer e vou ralar. É agora. É agora.
Vai. É que você jogou muita sinuca e mesa descaída lá no Porto
É
Alegre.
que,
Não, as mesas de Porto Alegre não eram retinhas.
é que o campo tá assim, ó.
Vai. Javi. Chaval, o que te pasa?
Javi.
Daí,
Não, pera, oh, mas esse lado tá melhor. É aqui, ó. Tropo.
Boa, né? Direção é boa, né? É
Sim.
como cuesta.
É
Como cuesta.
Mesma
É
coisa
como
que la
cuesta.
la intención es buena también.
Para ela.
La intención también es buena.
Ah, Douglas, para.
Calma,
Douglas.
vai ter caída?
Será?
Tem, ó.
Fora.
Boníssimo, mano!
Fora!
Aqui tá melhor a caída, aqui, ó.
É aqui que eu tenho que acertar.
Aham.
Aqui, ó. Andar, tá bom, Davi.
Anda cagada, Davi.
Amor de
Ei,
padre,
italiano.
amor de padre.
Esse é amor de padre, esse não sou.
Papá, va bene, ó.
Papá, para la mia também aí.